I'd like to now focus on a stark warning about the growing threat of disinformation and how quickly it can inflame regional tensions. Deepfake videos are being widely circulated across social media, making entirely false claims about rising tensions between Pakistan and India. The clips, which have been shared by politicians in Pakistan, take an interview with Imran Khan's sister on this programme last night, which I did, twisting her words to make her say things she frankly didn't say. Here's an excerpt from one of those videos where she's made to accuse the chief of Pakistan's army, Asim Munir, of wanting war with India. Have a listen.
Well, Yalda, this Asim Munir, is a very radicalized Islamist, Islamic conservative, and this is the reason why he yearns for a war with India, because his Islamic radicalization and conservatism is forcing him to fight against those who don't believe in Islam.
That was the interview I did there with Alima Khan, the sister of Imran Khan, and it was absolutely clear that's not something that Alima Khanum had said. She was speaking about the imprisonment of her brother, former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan. While she did refer to Field Marshal Munir, it was only in the context of blaming him for her brother's detention. She made no reference whatsoever to a conflict with India. But in a sign of just how dangerous fake news on social media can be, the clip has been picked up by press on the subcontinent as a legitimate story with headlines such as these, what you're looking at on your screen. It shows the importance of trusted media outlets such as ours here at Sky News. This disinformation comes at a time where there are fears Pakistan is moving towards authoritarian rule, with the constitution being amended to give the army chief unprecedented powers. Now, joining us now is Rakib Hamid Naik, the Executive Director of the Centre for the Study of Organised Hate, a research and policy organisation based in Washington. Thank you so much for joining us here on the programme. I'm not sure if you actually saw that deep fake of my interview with Alima Khan, the sister of Imran Khan, but it was quite clear that it was fake when you just looked at the way that our mouths moved. But frankly, it did go viral and it is circulating on social media, but also being picked up by mainstream media in the subcontinent.
Well, yeah, when you first see this video, it's genuinely very hard to tell whether it's real or not. But it looks and sounds very convincing. But if you watch it a couple of times, you begin to notice that something is off. These small glitches in the facial expressions and the audio. And now in South Asia, you have extremely high internet penetration, but very low media and digital literacy. And that combination makes the region incredibly vulnerable to these manipulated videos. A clip that seems very authentic at first glance can travel through millions of phones before anyone can even consider that possibility.
That is what appears to have happened here, where it looks like it was generated quite soon after that interview I did with her, and then it got picked up very quickly and then wasn't verified, and then suddenly we saw media in Pakistan and India quoting her and quoting the deep fake.
Right. I mean, in fact, we tracked the spread of this clip on X, and it was shared and reposted thousands of times, both in India and Pakistan, and not even a single post had the community note fact-checking the claims. And as you mentioned, which is also very concerning, how quickly a deep fake like this can shape mainstream narratives, where you have several mainstream media outlets, both in India and Pakistan, reporting on it without any verification, which shows how polarized and fragile the media ecosystem in the subcontinent has become, and how easily disinformation can slip straight into the news cycles.
And frankly, how dangerous, given we saw India and Pakistan go head-to-head in May. We're talking about two nuclear powers. When this kind of disinformation, fake news, deep fakes spread by the mainstream media in the country, in these two countries, it can have, dangerous and detrimental impact on not just society but policy.
You're very right. I mean, it feeds directly into these fault lines that have existed in the subcontinent since partition, and India and Pakistan are nuclear-armed neighbors with decades of mistrust, recurring military standoffs, and extremely polarized public opinion. So when a deepfake like this that attributes remarks to an important political figure, it is instantly picked up across the border and interpreted through a nationalistic lens, and then amplified by both partisan media and these online networks. And that creates this feedback loop where false or fabricated content contributes to this broader outrage and deepening of polarization and division, as well as pressures both the governments to respond to something that never actually happened.
And you just talk there about the combination of these deep fakes emerging and then the lack of literacy that people have when it comes to these things. They're not able to identify. I mean, I was able to look at it immediately and know that it was a deep fake. But in general, people who don't necessarily know how to spot it will share it and it will circulate. How difficult is it then to reverse that and help people understand that actually this news wasn't real?
Well, I think in this particular case, which is clearly a textbook example of how deepfakes are being used to manipulate public opinions, when these videos that are intended to influence or peddle certain narratives, it's extremely hard to reverse that narrative. And in this particular case, no matter how many clarifications Alima Khan will give, it will certainly not strike with the people, because it's already almost on every account out there right now. So, but I think here we need to talk about the accountability on two levels. That is, first with the AI developers themselves, and then the social media platforms. Because they have to take accountability when it comes to building adequate safeguards to prevent political or such malicious use of their technology and platforms to spread.
And in the this particular region, especially when I guess conspiracy theories are rife everywhere, but certainly it is something that, because of the level of mistrust between these two states, it does build up. Just talk to us about the dangers then of not just deep fakes, but this level of disinformation and the role that the digital space and AI, social media has, and the impact it then has.
Well, I think a single manipulated video in this particular context can escalate this perception of hostility between these two countries that already operate on a very razor-thin margins of trust. And AI isn't inventing entirely new forms of harms. It is massively amplifying existing propaganda strategies. And as I mentioned, a region with low digital literacy, that amplification becomes dangerous, because what once required coordinated effort can now be generated and circulated at scale in minutes. So, and in this particular context, we have, India and Pakistan relations that are very volatile. It can definitely have real-world consequences that extend far beyond the digital sphere.
Rakib Hamid Naik, thank you very much for joining us here on the program.
Thank you for having me.